What was Solomon known for during his reign as king of Israel? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 1 Kings on walking through the Bible.
The glory of his cross.
Today we're going to be discussing 1 Kings chapter 9, verses 15 to 28. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 15. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 1 Kings chapter 9, beginning at verse 15. And this is the reason for the labor force which King Solomon raised, to build the house of the Lord, his own house, the Milo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hatzor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer and burned it with fire, had killed the Canaanites who dwelt in the city, and had given it as a dowry to his daughter, Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer, Lower Bethoron, Baalath, and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land of Judah, all the storage cities that Solomon had, cities for his chariots and cities for his cavalry, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. All the people who were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel, that is, their descendants who were left in the land after them, whom the children of Israel had not been able to destroy completely, from these Solomon raised forced labor, as it is this day. But of the children of Israel, Solomon made no forced laborers, because they were men of war and his servants, his officers, his captains, commanders of his chariots and his cavalry. Others were chiefs of the officials who were over Solomon's work, 550, who ruled over the people who did the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then he built the Milo. Now 3 times a year Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he had built for the Lord. And he burned incense with them on the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the temple. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezion-Geber, which is near Elath on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. Then Hiram sent his servants with the fleet, seamen who knew the sea, to work with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and acquired 420 talents of gold from there, and brought it to King Solomon. So far, in Solomon's reign, we have learned a couple of things. One, that he was given wisdom by God, so that there was none like him among his contemporaries. We also found that he was quite wealthy and powerful, perhaps more so than any king in Israel before or since. And then we found out that during his reign, he built a lot of buildings in Israel. Firstly, he built the temple in Jerusalem and his palaces. This took 20 years to do, taking us to the 24th year of his reign. What is being talked about here in verses 15 to 28 seem to be an overview of the entire 20-year period, and perhaps a little afterwards, rather than an account of things that happened exclusively later in Solomon's reign, due to the fact that Gezer is mentioned as a dowry from Pharaoh to his daughter when she married Solomon, something that happened very early on in Solomon's reign. How did Solomon build so much in such a short period of time? Through forced labor of the descendants of the peoples who Israel didn't destroy when they entered the promised land, namely the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Nobody who was a native in Israel was brought in through forced labor, but these peoples were. As we point out in passing, the Bible is not telling us of the rightness or wrongness of Solomon's actions here. It is simply telling us of his actions, and so that's the only comment we'll make on it as well. As for the cities that he built up were Gezer, which is in the Ajalon Valley, along with Lower Bethoron, and Baalath and Tadmor, further south in the wilderness of Judah. In the north, Solomon built up Hatzor, which we saw in the book of Joshua being burned and then inhabited again back in the book of Judges, as well as Megiddo, which lays just south of the Jezreel Valley. In Jerusalem, Solomon built up the wall of Jerusalem along with the Milo, which is likely a fortification tower or rampart. These building projects were quite significant and showed the immense wealth that Solomon possessed, even if he borrowed some of that wealth from neighbors such as Hiram. Even though the children of Israel were not used as forced laborers, doesn't mean that Solomon didn't use them, for many were put to work in the army as well as servants in his court. These people would be paid, but paid service to the king. It is important we remember all these building projects, the vast sums of money they cost, as well as the amount of labor required, for that will come into play when Solomon's son takes the throne. Once the temple was done, Solomon would sacrifice there to the Lord 3 times a year during those three pilgrimage feasts that the Israelites were required to attend: the Passover, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. It's not that Solomon might not have offered other sacrifices at other points in the year, it's just that he always sacrificed to God during these special feasts each year. To go along with Solomon's material wealth, Solomon also acquired something that no other ruler in Israel had before: a fleet of ships, which was at Ezion-Geber on the shore of the Red Sea. Now Israel was to have borders on the Mediterranean, but up until the days of Solomon, Israel had largely ceded much of their coast to the peoples of Canaan that they didn't conquer, meaning that they didn't have opportunities to build ships. With the help of Hiram and the Phoenicians, which were known for shipbuilding and sailing, Solomon did acquire a fleet that would go sailing, for it is said that on one trip they acquired 420 talents of gold from Ophir and brought it to Solomon. We don't exactly know where Ophir is, but it could be on the southern coast of modern-day Saudi Arabia, perhaps like Yemen, or somewhere down the coast of East Africa, perhaps like Nubia. Whatever the case, the thing we can say for certain about Solomon's reign is that he was wealthy and powerful and made his mark on Israel when he reigned. Now, critics often point out, where is all the evidence of these building projects or even his immense wealth? For archaeology hasn't found much. Let me ask you, what happened after Solomon? The kingdom of Israel split in two and invariably was attacked by this neighbor or that neighbor because of sin. The reign of Solomon was only 40 years, a blip in the history books, and what came afterward would erase most of what Solomon did. Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes 1 verses 9 to 11 sum it up nicely. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. The Bible gives us the reason that Solomon's deeds are largely lost to history: sin. But the Bible records the greatness of Solomon, and because the Bible has been shown to be a trustworthy witness in other places, we can trust its account here too. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 1 Kings chapter 10, verses 1 to 13, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.